Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good. I am up early today because this is so good, it's great. Today, we are blessed to have two amazing actors with us who starred in 85 episodes of a near perfect show that launched in 2006 on ABC called Ugly Betty. It won countless awards and it was known for its quirky sense of humor filled with so much heart and soul. And I was dismayed to learn recently that we are in the year 2025 and it's been 18 years since this show was on. But luckily, we now have a rewatch podcast of this excellent show called Still Ugly, streaming on all platforms. And if you go to Spotify, they have video now as well. We have two actors with us today, amazing actors. Michael Urie, who is now doing incredible work on Shrinking, and Becky Newton, who we've loved on The Lincoln Lawyer and her work in her Olive Garden commercial in 2005. They played Mark St. James and Amanda Tannen. Michael Urie and Becky Newton, welcome to the show.
Hello. Wow, what a great intro.
Great intro. I have one question though.
Yeah.
9 a.m. is early for you?
Okay, listen, no, the reason why was that I got to bed really late because I was working on a show. And so, why are you guys making me feel guilty already?
Thank you for that amazing intro.
Becky has 30 children. She's been up since 5.
I never sleep. But 9 a.m. is like noon for most people. So.
First off, congratulations on the podcast. I think it's got to be such a weird experience for you guys having this experience in 2006 and it really putting you on the map in a lot of ways. And then 18 years later to get back together to actually talk about this show. How did this even come about? Like, when did discussion start of, I think now is the time to actually revisit this work?
I don't know, about the time the last episode aired.
It's true.
We always think of this project as kind of inevitable. When the original series aired back in the day, Becky and I were approached by ABC to do a podcast. They were like, "We're going to do a podcast," and like they, in quotes, we were pioneering this new medium of podcasting.
And can I just say this? By approached, you mean we were told to do this on our lunch break.
That's right. We were instructed that we would be hosting a podcast, the first of its kind. And I think there were other podcasts for other shows, but no shows that were being hosted by cast members. So we were like literally doing the show every day, shooting the show every day. And then at lunch breaks, they would grab us and we would make this podcast. So there is like a podcast already of the entire series with us from the day. So it just felt inevitable that we would eventually go back and rewatch and reconnect. We've been, besties ever since. We talk to each other every day.
Yeah.
So it was like,
that's what shines through is that your relationship. Like immediately I'm like, oh my God, the audience gets to act like we're your friends because you guys have such a tight relationship that you're walking us through. And it's all the little details because you cover every episode, you go through, but it's also the little details. Like I was tearing up when Michael, you were tearing up on the first episode talking about Judith Light coming over to your apartment after the final wrap and giving you the lamp. And I was just like, these little details I geek out on so much. And this was such a real experience and it just shines through. Like, Becky, was this one of the best working experiences you've had in your career?
I mean, it was the material. It was the experience of being on a show that was well received. But for me, it was the relationships, and specifically with Michael, it wasn't work. It was a dream. And I've never laughed that hard in my life. And it's funny when people say, what's it like to go back? I think because Michael and I have never disconnected, that it doesn't feel like we're reconnecting. It just feels like, oh, now we're talking and there's cameras on. But it doesn't feel that long ago because Michael and I have never separated. So it's just really neat to look at it through a different lens. And I think we knew then that it was so special, and we're just now getting to reconnect with some of our castmates that we never got to sit down and talk about what the show meant to us because we were so busy in it. When we saw Tony, for example, who played Poppy, also known as Ignacio, it was so nice to sit with him and just say thank you for being such a wonderful human, because I don't think I knew at 20 something what it meant to have him as such an incredible leader. So it's like we're reflecting in a different way, but I know for a fact that Michael and I never disconnected. So it's almost just like more of a chance to hang out with each other.
Well, I mean, you do. I mean, you have guests from the actual show on the show. I mean, America Ferrara, what a way to lead off your first episode, having her on. And it's just interesting. Everybody that you've had on so far, they talk about it in this kind of loving way, because I've talked to people that have worked in TV and film before, and it's not always like that. You know, it's not always like that experience. And it just, I don't know, there seems to be such a joy associated with all of this, which I think in 2025, we need this more now than ever. And then it's streaming on Netflix, you guys. You can listen to an episode of this, and then you can go to Netflix and stream that episode and go through it. I was just like, even the little details of you like making fun of America, like, yeah, you're always in a hot dog costume, or they're throwing dirt on you in a funeral. Those are the things, like, you guys laughing about that. It was just, it made my heart sing, you know?
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
it was
so
like
glad.
the show was. Thank you. That's so nice. It's so nice to hear like such specific memories from the rewatch, because that show was a perfect storm. It was a hit show, which is very rare. It happened very quickly. We made the pilot in like April or whatever, and we were on TV by September. So we went from I went from like having 3 roommates and a tiny apartment in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, to being in magazines in grocery stores in a matter of months. And the show was like about something. It was ahead of its time. It was always topical. It was very progressive. And we had these incredible veterans on the show. We had Vanessa Williams, Judith Light, Tony Plana, who
Selma
made sure
Hayek produced it and in it.
Absolutely. And they made sure that we knew, Becky and I, who were brand new, Mark and Delicato, who was literally a child, and America was only 20, I think, at that time. And
Oh my gosh.
Anna was young. Eric Mabius, we were all really, really young. And Tony, Vanessa, Judith, they made sure we knew how special this was, because they had been on other shows. And now we've been on other shows too. And so now we know, of course.
We could say the same thing to people.
Yeah, so now you realize how special it was. And I was even thinking about that in the projects that you've gone on to do now. Do you kind of pass that down to a younger generation of actors as well, of, like, this is what it means to work with a good team of people?
Yeah.
I think for me, it's really like leading by example. I know now when I get to go to work on Lincoln Lawyer, I fully embrace the fact that I am so lucky to be on a great show with great people in LA. And I try to kind of keep that energy. I think Michael and I were on a set with people who felt grateful and lucky to be there. And I think that was the greatest thing we could take, is like, every set you get to be on, make it amazing. And that's something I do love about Michael. Like, every room Michael walks into is brighter because he's there. And I think that is something that's very rare, to have someone who loves their work so much and is so joyful and is so willing to share who they are with people. That's why I love Michael so much. Among many others.
I want to point out too is that you play games in these episodes. Becky, you're not really good at the games, I've noticed. And by the way, as Michael points out, this is a rewatch podcast. You have to watch the show, and you're still getting a lot of these answers wrong. And I also want to point out, viewers or listeners of this can call in. You can have questions, because I think this is one of those things that this is why it's great to do things like this, to make people aware this is out there. And I got really excited. Like, I started binging the episodes, and then I was like, oh, okay, so I'm on 7 now. When's the next one? And then I was like, already fatalist. I was like, there's only 85 episodes. What are we going to do after 85? Are we going to start writing fan fiction about Ugly Betty? Is this going to lead into a reboot of Ugly Betty? Like, I'm already dreaming big for this.
Well,
that's awesome. By the way, I want to just point out, I don't mean to nitpick, and this isn't you, but we did 88 episodes. and this has come up before.
Okay, IMDb. I'm gonna have words with IMDb later.
Let's do it. Have letters with IMDb, because they at some point it became 85 episodes, but it was definitely 88. I know because I count my residuals. And
what residuals?
And we're doing it, so it'll be at least 88 episodes of the podcast, but also sometimes we have special episodes, like we have standalone episodes. Like we had a whole episode that was just Chris Gorham, just talking to Chris Gorham. We have a whole episode that's just talking to Eric Mabius. We'll keep doing things like that. And then, I don't know if you remember this, but
Mode After Hours?
You remember.
Yes, you watched Mode After Hours.
ABC.com, baby. Like, so guys, they did a little spin-off. Like, this is so wild because the internet, wasn't what it was today, but they were still trying things. And you guys did Mode After Hours. And that was one of my questions, is that will you be touching on Mode After Hours?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. And there also is like an entire world of Mode After Hours bloopers, which basically is the same amount of time as the actual episodes, because to have Mark and Amanda locked in Mode magazine and do entire episodes of just Mark and Amanda, I think they were tired. We didn't film half of them because we were laughing too hard.
It's also important to know that we were not paid for those episodes.
Yeah, and that was another.
Wait, are you kidding? Wait, are you kidding me? You were doing freebie.
We were very well
compensated. This was part of press. Was like, you'll just do another show, and we were like, thank you.
Yeah. But what was really cool about those, we loved doing them because we loved hanging out together, and we loved like more us. But also, they were giving like the junior writers and junior directors opportunities so like the writers' assistants and like story editors, like the lower tiered members of the writing team, who were always part of the staff, but not always getting scripts that were theirs. They got to write these webisodes, which was really cool. And then like our first ADs would get to direct the episodes. Sometimes producers would direct episodes. Our production designer, Mark Worthington, directed an episode. So it was this really cool way to like sort of give people opportunities to be ambitious within the Ugly Betty family. And so even though we didn't get paid for that or for the podcast that we did, we loved doing it. We loved our show so much. It was such a special, it was so special. Any opportunity we had to do more, we took.
I have to pause for 1 second because my babysitter has called me 3 times. Pause, 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Keep talking.
Pause. Okay. I'm just going to talk. Michael, by the way, I saw you in Buyer and Seller and you were incredible. Like, holy moly. But I mean, I was just talking to my buddy because I was like, oh, I'm interviewing Michael Urie. He's like, I saw it in Chicago, and it really was just, fantastic. And I know we're supposed to pause for Becky, but you came up from Juilliard, and I just wonder, like, when you were in Juilliard, what was your dream at that point in terms of your career? Were you like, I want to be a theater actor, or was there more of a, I do want to go into TV and film?
Well, I had this thing that, and I still. Hi, Becky. Becky,
hi. All is fine with the babysitter and the baby. Just had to confirm. I know you were wondering. Sorry about that.
But you're just in time because we're talking about Juilliard. Your favorite.
Thank God. I was like, I didn't want to miss the part where we talk about Michael going to Juilliard. Oh,
sorry, that was my fault.
No, it comes up. It comes up a lot because
Michael brings it up a lot.
But to answer your question about, like what I was going after, I think this is true. And Becky and I have talked about this before. I think it's kind of true for her too. I'm always, people ask me a lot, like, what do you prefer, theater or television? And the truth is, it's whatever I'm doing at that moment. And when I was very lucky enough to get into drama school, I thought, well, this is what I'll do, whatever I learned there. And we spent most of the time in drama school doing Shakespeare, the classics. And so when I finished, I was like, that's what I want to do. I just want to travel the country playing Shakespeare parts. And that was kind of my dream. And then that didn't really happen. And suddenly I was getting into like the TV world. I was getting close on TV auditions and shooting a pilot before I ever got a Shakespeare gig. And so
and that wasn't a part of Juilliard, I imagine, of like TV and film class.
No, not really. But I kept treating, especially with Ugly Betty, I kept treating it like Shakespeare. Like to me, Ugly Betty, these characters on Ugly Betty, especially early on with, my relationship with Vanessa Williams' character, we were like classic Shakespearean villains, which means we would say what we were going to do, we would do it, and then we would talk about how we just did it, which is like exactly what happens in Shakespeare with villains. And so that's kind of how I behaved. I treated it like it was Shakespeare, and it really worked. So
Yeah, it did really work in that, like, you can sense you imbued that character. I mean, a lot of actors can sometimes do a one note thing, and you both fully fleshed these out where you gave it a complete life even off the page. And I think it was already well written. Becky, I know you were hot off the heels of the Olive Garden commercial, but can you put yourself back in the space of a young actor auditioning during pilot season? And I always try to explain to the audience, pilot season's a little different now, but back then it was just a glut of TV shows. You were dying to get auditions. These were really like, pieces of gold to get an audition. And your job is really just to do the audition well. That's your time to shine. And most of the time you're not going to get that part. What was your experience like auditioning for Ugly Betty?
Well, I had been in New York I'd done commercials, and I had no experience with theater. I designed costumes in college for Pippin. And did you know that? Yeah, because I
Whoa.
love to sew. So I would be near
Yeah,
theater.
move over Juilliard. Let's get more into this costume stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I was doing commercials in New York, and I didn't know what pilot season was, but because I had been doing a lot of commercials and at the time looked a little bit younger than I was. So in my early 20s, 5,000 years ago, I still could play a teenager. And this is when like the OC was happening. So I was going out for like 16-year-olds. And at that point, I'd already met my husband, Chris Diamantopoulos. And when he would drive me to auditions, and multiple times people said, "Can your dad please wait in the car?" That's right. They thought Chris Diamantopoulos was my dad.
Oh.
So headspace wise, Michael, you don't know this.
Did not. I have
He
never.
told my dad.
People were slipping you notes like, "Do
no.
you need help?" Yeah. Folks, we will be back to the show in just 1 second, but we need to take a moment to talk about our good friends over at Quint. Now, we all have that spring travel itch right now. I know you're going on vacations. Hopefully, I hope I get to go on a vacation. I just got back from Vegas actually for ChumpCon, and I did treat myself to a nice, breathable, light blue sports jacket, which I am wearing right now. See, it says Quint right here, and guess what? It is affordable. Everything that Quint offers. They have lightweight shirts and shorts from $30. They have pants for any occasion, and they have beautiful, comfortable lounge sets. And with premium luggage options and durable duffel bags to carry it all, I mean, they have those as well. And the best part, all Quint items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. How do they do this? They partner directly with top factories. Quint cuts out the cost of the middleman, and they pass that savings, that's right, directly on to us. And Quint only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. How can you not love that? Seriously, folks, it is so easy. All you have to do is go to quince.com, Quince, and they have everything laid out. They have their best sellers. They have their new arrivals, men, women, everything. You want to buy something for yourself? They have it. You want to get a gift for your family or friends? They have it. I have my eye on a new piece of luggage because I did just break my piece of luggage at ChumpCon this weekend. So Quince, I think you might have just sold at least one piece of luggage. So for your next trip, treat yourself to the luxe upgrades that you deserve from Quince. Go to quince.com/sobad for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/sobad to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/sobad. And now back to our show.
Yeah, exactly. So the year before, had gotten my first pilot. And it was a show called The Loop. And I went and did this pilot and went through all these sort of auditions and got the job, got on set, had no idea what I was doing. And desperately tried to please the director and the producers. And guess what? The show got picked up, but I did not. They called me and said, you're a very nice person, but we're letting you go. And I wanted to die. I remember the moment. They were very nice about it, but the general feedback was that I wasn't glamorous enough and I wasn't funny enough. So I go back to New York.
And that you couldn't drive because your dad had to drive you to the set.
And your dad's like always there with you, which is weird. So I remember I went back to New York and I thought, okay, fine, I'll just do commercials. I guess that's sort of what I'm supposed to be doing. I was embarrassed. I, had lots of horrible feelings. And then something clicked. Then I was like, well, okay, now the worst thing an actor can ever imagine has happened. You get fired, you told you kind of suck, and you're really not that cute. And then the Amanda audition came in. And I was like, okay, here's a part that on paper is for a supermodel. Well, I already know I'm not a supermodel, and I've been told as such. So guess what? I'm going to go in and make Amanda think she's a supermodel. And it was like something that was going on in me in my audition life took over. And it was a little bit like, F everybody, watch this. And I think that having that experience of being fired and told you're like, all your worst nightmare as an actor to be told these things sort of publicly, I was like, well, I guess I better figure out what I think. And that's what started with Amanda. I was like, I have to know what I'm doing here. And I walked into that audition. I remember looking up and seeing Selma Hayek sitting there. And I thought, well, I have two choices. I could either say, hey, Selma, what do you want me to do? Or I could say, here's what I think. And that power that started as a result of the year before, I marched into that screen test and I really did think like, I'm going to get this part. And even though on paper, I'm not this part, I didn't tell myself like, oh, I'm not pretty enough. I was like, I'm getting it. And I think part of that like semi overcompensation kind of followed me into Amanda, where I'm like, you can't tell me I can't do it. And Amanda's like, I'm a supermodel. I can answer the phone. It's not even connected to the actual
This is acting. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think that there's always a certain alchemy to where you might be in your life on that day at that audition and what comes with you. And I think Amanda was a little fragile, but also super powerful. And that combination, I think, was also being put next to Michael. So I didn't really know what I was doing, but I saw Michael commit and like, he didn't do anything any less than 100%. And that made sense to me. So it was the first time I'd been near a kindred spirit where I wasn't trying to like play it cool. Michael and I don't do cool. We just do. Like, so there was something I think about where I was in my life and my career and then being put next to Michael, and like something magical happened with that combination.
Well, I would argue that Michael was put next to you and that made him better. I would
I mean, this is really tall.
You made it look like he was wearing less layers of clothing each episode.
But that is such an interesting point, Becky, about us not being cool.
Not at all.
Because we were not cool, but we loved it, and we ended up on something cool, and it was, that show was cool in spite of itself. It was at a time when like Desperate Housewives, we were on TV with Desperate Housewives and Grey's Anatomy and Lost. Yeah, like the coolest cool kids shows. And
we were not.
Here we were, a bunch of goofy people. We had braces and glasses, and we were running around. Even though it was about fashion, it was about people who thought they were cool. The only person who was really cool was Vanessa, and the rest of us were just a bunch of like goobs. And I still struggle with this in Hollywood. Like, I still think about like, am I cool enough to show up at this thing or be in this room or actually, it's so funny. I was just driving around yesterday, and we were in Studio City. Becky and I had lunch in Studio City.
Yeah, we went to Big Five to look at a sports store of all places. We were hanging out.
Oh wait, right by the Radford lot, right there.
Yeah, we had to go to Big Five for various reasons. But anyway, go ahead, Michael.
Sporting equipment during lunch.
Wait, is there a special episode of the podcast where you're going to be wearing hockey gear?
No, but I did see gold roller skates, and I was like, "Look, Michael, gold roller skates." I feel like we would have worn those.
But I felt that, there's like that PTSD of going to auditions at Radford and feeling like I didn't belong. And even yesterday, when I was driving around and I was like, oh my God, Studio City, all these like feelings came up. And And I was like, wait a minute, I don't care about that anymore. I'm very fortunate and lucky that I have work in this industry, and not just work, but work that is looking back on my old work. And I'm so proud of all that. And I'm so, and I was like, oh wow, I'm so proud that I'm not, even though like those old feelings come back up, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't have um, that gene. I have stopped trying to be cool. Sure, sometimes I wonder if I'm cool enough, but like I'm not going to play the game because I never played the game. I was never able to play the game.
I mean, it's always about finding your special, like the special sauce that you have and leaning into that, which I thought both of you guys in this show. I mean, we have a couple more questions here, but I just, the first couple seasons of the show were so kind of explicitly, viciously campy and wicked. And, you know, then as the seasons progressed, your characters got more emotional and humanized. And I was wondering, what was more fun for, I mean, if you can remember back, you know, those first seasons really were like, can be it's vicious in the best possible way. Was that insanely fun to play, but was it also exciting to watch that progression as you guys got more humanized as characters?
Totally.
Yeah, I know, like, when Amanda started searching, I mean, even when there was major character development, like when Amanda was looking for her adoptive father, I was wearing a fat suit and I was hanging out with Gene Simmons. So they always found a way to combine this development
Tell me
with,
Gene Simmons will be on the podcast with
oh
you
my
guys
God,
at
we
some
have
point.
to. I got to go to Capitol Records and sing with Gene Simmons for our Daddy's Little Girl theme song. I did. It's Daddy's Little
Oh.
Girl. And I got to sing like, Gene Simmons is my daddy at Capitol Records. Like, this is, and at the time I was like, what is happening? So yeah, the progression always kept the camp, but like they were very good at always having these characters reveal more of themselves. And I know Michael, especially at, I think season 3 and season 4, his storylines, I mean, have changed people's lives. I think with, I don't want
Yeah.
to speak for you, Michael, but your story with Patty LaPone, and your connection with Justin's character, I think it was like important, you know, those important stories that people really connected with.
Yeah, that was, and they would sprinkle those in even, you know, early on. Probably the Patty LaPone as my mom episode, where that was late in season 1, and that was
Oh,
probably
that was one?
that
Oh,
was season 1. Yeah,
wow.
and
Soon then.
that was probably the first. That was probably the first time he went to places. But we've already seen Amanda. You know, Amanda's heartbreak with her relationship with Daniel. So even though like it was super camp, and there was especially at the beginning, and also you have to remember, we were on that old network TV schedule that very few shows even do anymore, where we had to crank out 20 something
23 episodes a season. I was like, I mean, now you get like, or even with Shrinking or The Lincoln Lawyer, you know,
10. We do
people are
10.
now used to these. Yeah, exactly. But back in the day, they were making you guys crank out season after season at a high rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were making things fast and furious, and even though, I mean, we're only in season 1 rewatching right now, but the quality is just so good. But I remember how frantic it was. They were constantly writing, and we were constantly getting new episodes and rewrites, and it was a mad dash to finish. And we would shoot. Sometimes we had 2 units going at the same time. You would be shooting 2 episodes in a day, and it was often chaos, and the writers, the incredible writing team, still managed to get to the heart of every character at some point. You know, sometimes we had episodes where it was just like, you know, a little bit of mischief in the corner, but every character at some point was taken really, really good care of.
Michael, to your point earlier and talking about Patty LaPone, I was texting with my friend who's a big time professor at DePaul now, and we were talking about you, and he says, "Hey, I don't want to sound too academic, but this show did not just follow in range of gay representation, but it was a show that brought queer sensibilities and coached camp sensibilities for mainstream audiences." And I thought that was such a beautiful sentiment because. Yeah, like network television, you know, we're in the heyday of streaming, but this was one of those like kind of open door shows where you were able to approach these things where people, people weren't used to this, and it did it in such a beautiful way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when this show came on, people weren't really out. They were getting outed. It wasn't like, now there's so many, so many out actors and we have tons of representation on television and in media. But back then it was, and this was right after Will and Grace ended. And so there was this sort of like, there was this absence and we were able to come in and kind of fill that void. But our show was because it was a dramedy, and it didn't have to get laughter. It didn't have to elicit out, laugh out loud laughter. We were able to every episode go to someplace real and someplace true. And because it was like a good versus evil show, it's like there were the good guys and bad guys on the show. I think we were able to go to darker places because there were consequences. So it didn't always get tied up in a bow. Like the character of my mother, Patti LuPone's character of my mother. That doesn't end well. It's not a happy ending, and she never came back. That character never returned to the show, and presumably never returned to Mark's life in the world of the show. And that's real. That's something, that's not pleasant. It's not a happy thing to explore and experience, but it was real. And to show that Mark didn't have the support of his biological family, but did have this chosen family in Amanda, and even in Betty, who was an adversary but an ally at the same time. We were able to show this other way of surviving.
Yeah. Two last things before I let you go is the first season comes out and you guys are nominated for everything. You're winning Golden Globes for Best Show, Emmy Awards for America. I mean, this show, what is that like as an actor? Because already you're just blessed to have a job. You're actually enjoying your time working. And then all of a sudden you're popping up at the Golden Globes and the Emmys. You won a Peabody, for the love of God. What does that feel like? I mean, does anything prepare you as a young actor for getting those kind of accolades so early in the run of this season, this show?
I had no idea. I mean, I'd never been on a red carpet before. So again, Michael and I got to go through that together. I'm like, stand next to me, hold my hand. And also, strangely enough, the show itself and the fashion part of the show made that world a little easier because there were fittings and it was about what you wore on the red carpet. So strangely, it all connected, even though press is technically so separate from the work on the show itself.
And we had we had Vanessa Williams, who was an expert, and she helped us. I'll never forget the day I saw Vanessa teaching Becky how to walk a red carpet. Like literally, this is how you stand to get your photo taken.
Right, because it was also the fact that I could ask her things and not feel stupid. Because it's really hard to go up to someone and say, "How do I look cool and not look like an idiot?" And Vanessa was like, "I'll take care of you." And I really did. I had so much safety around me as someone who had never really acted, never really been on a red carpet. And I just had so much love and so much safety. I'm so grateful for that. That was my training ground, those years on Ugly Betty.
Well, you guys, this has been such a joy to talk to you. And really, I'm so happy this podcast came into my life, and all the listeners or viewers out there have this podcast come into your life. And also, I want to say, if you haven't watched Ugly Betty, you got to listen to this and then go watch Ugly Betty. Like, this show still holds up. Like, it is so well done in so many ways. And I mean, obviously, I think just from talking to you guys, I mean, we get to the end of these 88 episodes plus the ABC.com stuff. Would we ever be open? You ask this all the time. Would we be open to revisiting these characters, where they are now? I mean, do you imagine where they are now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we think about it all the time. And of course, anytime we reconnect with one of the other cast members, it comes up, and we all wonder what are these characters doing? I mean, it's been quite a few years now, 15 years almost, that since we last saw them. Right? Is that right? Could that be 15 years? My God.
Yeah, 15 years.
I got so upset when I heard you tell the year in the first episode, and I was like, oh my God, it feels like yesterday that I was watching this on ABC. Also, Mike White, if you're listening, cast these guys on the White Lotus next season. You would make a fantastic.
Great idea.
I
Yes.
think that, I mean, the relationship's already here, so I think this is an obvious casting. But you guys at home, I know that you're like, oh, these are big celebrities and stars, and they've done so much amazing work. But I want this podcast to continue to be a hit. And so, what do? We always go subscribe to the show, and we rate it 5 stars on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And that might sound silly, but we need to do that.
Please.
It's the easiest way. You don't have to pay any money for your finger to hit 5 stars, because this is a joyful experience, and that's what we need to invest in the year of 2025 in more experiences like this. So Michael Urie and Becky Newton, thank you for coming into my life and on my show, and I can't wait to listen to the next 81 episodes, plus hopefully other episodes. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much for your enthusiasm, and thank you. You're wonderful.
Great chat, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike.